Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing V is for Vengeance, written by Sue Grafton. Here's the book. It's book 22 in the Kinsey Millhone series, which is a long-running crime series. And if you know about Sue Grafton and this series, there were meant to be 26 books, but Sue Grafton passed away before she could finish the last book. So the alphabet ends in Y. But anyway, this book. So, in the last few books in this series, including this, V is for Vengeance, Sue Grafton adopted a style where there were multiple points of view. I preferred when it was Kinsey's point of view alone, and in this book we have other character point of views where those points of view and those chapters don't add anything to the overall story. They don't have to be there. And I was disappointed by this read. This, for me, may be my least favourite book in the series so far. I get the impression that this book is based on the fact that one small act, one small thing you see or witness can change your life, and not necessarily in a good way. That happens to Kinsey in this book. She's shopping in a department store, and she witnesses two women shoplifting. They seem to be working in tandem. Kinsey alerts security, one of the women gets nabbed, one gets away. And so this woman, her name is Audrey. Kinsey finds out a little bit later that this woman, Audrey, after she's released on bail, she is found dead. Kinsey's a bit shocked by this because, she only met this woman once, didn't know her, but she's wondering, was she kind of responsible by getting this lady arrested? Did she, lead this woman to take her own life? This is where the book gets a little bit complicated and a little bit strange as well. So this woman, Audrey, the one that was shoplifting, her fiancé is called Marvin. He tracks down Kinsey and he hires Kinsey to find out more about Audrey. He's not convinced that Audrey was a bad seed. Even though there's evidence later on, we find out that Audrey had a long history of crime. She was, multiple counts of shoplifting and other sorts of crime. And sometimes shoplifting with huge dollars on those items that she stole from stores. This guy Marvin won't believe it. He thinks that Audrey was a great woman. He thinks that people were mistaken about Audrey. He wants Kinsey to prove that she was innocent. So that seems to be the whole focus of the Kinsey storyline, at least the first part of it anyway, the investigation into Audrey. And it opens up a whole thing about Audrey later on in the story, about her history, about people she was dealing with, all the things she was doing in secret, it seems. But then we have two other points of view in this book, and it's their main points of view. There are multiple chapters for both these characters. One's called Dante, and Dante is the leader, it seems, of an organised crime gang in the area. But the way Dante is written is not written as being dangerous. I didn't get that feel about Dante at all in this story. He feels a bit more inept, I think. He just feels a bit more kind of not caring about what he's doing in his life, that role he has in this crime gang. He just feels like he's fumbling a little bit and he's more worried about getting caught than anything else. That's what we get about Dante in this story, and in fact it's all about him trying to hatch this plan to escape. That seems his main focus, and it seems most of his storyline is filler. You don't need it in the story. Adds nothing. Adds a bit to his character maybe, adds a bit to just his life in general. Maybe get about his house, about the work he does, whether it's illegal or not. Get all different things about him in the story, but how do they link up to the main investigation that Kinsey's doing? Not so much in my view. And then we have Nora, and Nora is the wife of an entertainment lawyer. And Nora's whole storyline is based around her finding out that her husband is having an affair. And it should be no surprise to her because she had an affair with him when he was married already, and then he married her. So it's no surprise to Nora that it's history repeating itself. But anyway, her main storyline is finding out that, then trying to sell her jewelry to raise money so she can leave him and kind of live on her own. And she wants to kind of hawk as much as she can so she can get funds. So when she divorces her husband, she has money to fall back on. And that's how she meets Dante. So it seems their two storylines are just based to have them meeting kind of in their own lives, not linked to Kinsey at all. So I just wonder why those chapters are there. They have no focus, they have no link to the main crime. They do have maybe later on in the book where different storylines kind of merge in a big kind of climactic scene, but that whole lead up with those two storylines adds nothing, and it takes away from Kinsey in this story. And in my view, these books are stronger with Kinsey's point of view. That's my biased view in this series. I want Kinsey alone in the point of view. So the book in general. So when it's focused on Kinsey's point of view, I think the book's stronger, but not necessarily for Kinsey. I think it's stronger for the character Marvin. That character is so engaging in the story. He's a standout character in this book. But anyway, other parts of the book aren't so engaging for me. That's a shame because I want these books to be very engaging. I like this series. I like Kinsey as a character. I usually like her point of view. I do like her as a character very much. One of my favourite characters in fiction. But this book does not do her justice. The mystery in this book is back to the old style, with Kinsey not knowing what's going on and trying to uncover things, and she uncovers things slowly and through hard work. That's when I like the mysteries in this story. It's when they're strongest. Unfortunately, other parts of the mystery felt forced. Certain things in the book felt very forced, and it just felt like there was no organic kind of uncovering of those clues, even though the way they're uncovered is my favourite way that Kinsey goes about doing things in this series. Just the way the plot kind of pans out, especially towards the end, felt very forced in my view. The timeline in this book is, I think, about 1 week after the previous book. It seems like Sue Grafton is determined to keep this series in the 80s, and in doing so, she's forcing herself to keep a very short timeline in the last few books in this series. That could be a bit of a problem, I think, because it just makes Kinsey feel like she's stagnant in the series. And remember, these books were released every year or so. So every year or so you're getting Kinsey stuck in the same month, even sometimes in this series. And that just makes her feel ageless, and it makes the series feel a little bit stilted sometimes, in my view. Even though the books themselves can be enjoyable, usually. To have that character feel stilted in the same time period, the same age, stuck in the same months, all the time for multiple books. It kind of has that feeling of a cartoon sometimes, like The Simpsons, where all the characters don't age. Get that feeling sometimes with Kinsey and other characters in this series. So Dante, who's the crime boss in this story? This should be an example of how not to create a crime boss in a book. It doesn't feel like a crime boss, doesn't feel dangerous, nothing about him feels suspenseful, feels like he's lethal or deadly, feels like he's corrupt. It tries that in the story. Sue Grafton tries her best to bring that about in this character. It doesn't work so much. In my view, he just feels too placid. He just feels like he's always trying to escape things, not trying to instigate things so much in the story. It's a shame because this character should have come across as dangerous, but doesn't. Nora is another character I didn't like in the story. I don't like her point of view. It just makes her feel a bit selfish, self-centered. Her point of view, for me, is all filler. Nothing about her point of view is engaged with the story until towards the very end. And that's where it gets a little bit more interesting with Nora. But then it also feels a bit forced, her point of view towards the end. So I feel like Sue Grafton failed in this book to bring all those character storylines together in an organic way to make it feel natural. And Nora's just filling chapters, all the chapters with Nora just feel like filler. So I just got that impression with this character. Just maybe not engage with her at all. And I just wished her chapters were shorter or not there at all until towards the end where it's more exciting. Marvin is the best character in this book by far, but he's also the most annoying character in the book by far. He's the sort of person you would not like to know in real life. He's very annoying. In real life, I think he'd give you hives. That's my impression of Marvin. I just think he'd be so annoying, you'd do your best to get away from him. But in this book, he's engaging for those very reasons. That annoying feel he gives Kinsey all the time. The way he just flips around all the time and seems to change his mind so much. Seems to be antagonistic with Kinsey. They argue a bit in this story. Just him in the story doing those things makes him engaging and interesting. As characters go, the standout character in this story, one of the best characters I think that Sue Grafton's written in the whole series so far. I can't say I enjoyed this book overall. It may be my least favourite book in this series so far. A lot of that is down to the multi point of view. Those chapters with other characters and those chapters meaning nothing to the overall story, that's just a big miss in my view. Very disappointing in this series. Because even though Sue Grafton has written a few books now with multiple points of view, at least those chapters meant something for those other characters and kind of linked to the main case. In this book, not so much. So very disappointing, and I rate this a 2 out of 5. I think Sue Grafton can definitely do better. I'm not sure what went wrong in this book, but this book just wasn't very enjoyable for me. On my channel, I review many mysteries. If you enjoy mysteries, check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to a video for another book I'm sure you'll enjoy.